Your Voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
Good evening. I'm Stevenson Manners, host of Your Voice with the NRP, where political discourse in the Federation reaches its apex. Tonight, we rolled out the welcome mat for the return of the party leader, the Honorable Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, the cool ruler. She's been away for a bit, and now she's chomping at the bits, ready to go. So good to have you back, Dr. Daniel Hodge. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Manners, and of course it's my pleasure to be here. As you said, I have been gone for a little bit. It wasn't necessarily my desire or my wish to be so, but sometimes life happens and you have to respond accordingly. And having been gone, I would have missed the opportunity to extend all of the Christmas greetings and New Year's greetings. And so it's my first time here for the year, and I'm quite happy to take this opportunity to wish all who are listening at home and in the diaspora all the best for 2026 and of course the years ahead. There have been some birthdays, some funerals, and I'm sure persons would understand if I just take this opportunity to extend my condolences to those who would have lost loved ones, and best greetings to those who had the opportunity to celebrate a birthday. I peeked in on the show, I think, was it Wednesday evening or Saturday? But I saw that Loretta Clark Creeley is here, and based on that, I know that Humpy is in the hospital, and so Humpy, someone who never passes without saying hi in a very humble way, and so I take this opportunity to wish him all the best and pray for his speedy recovery. I myself, I was away, and so much has been happening. But of course, let me join in the choir, so to speak. Everybody today is on the bandwagon about Bad Bunny and what he did at the Super Bowl, trying to demonstrate and actually give a call for unity and for people to come together as one. A number of people were quite excited to see the Cinquis Nevis flag, but he is actually from Puerto Rico, from the Caribbean, and so I don't think it was a big stretch for him to figure out the Caribbean islands that he wanted to have some impact on seeing, everything that is happening. So I must say that a whole lot has been going on, and it's good when you can see different voices raise up and bring a positive message, because oftentimes it seems that we're just bombarded with negativity, and that is something that we would really want to try our best to minimize the negativity and definitely turn up the volume on the positivity. So definitely my pleasure to be here once again, Mr. Manners, and I look forward to having a wonderful discussion with you this evening.
Oh, certainly. And the persons in the listening and viewing audience, I'm sure that they're glued to the television and the radio, having not heard from you for a while. You've got some important information to share, lessons learned, have you?
Well, certainly, yes. As we mentioned, I was gone, and it actually turned out to be a situation where it was a bit more than I anticipated. I must say kudos to the party for having the gala. I was hoping to be here for that, but I wasn't able to be. But what I would like to say is that during that short period, I was able to, pick up on a number of ideas and a number of tips that I think would be quite beneficial and quite useful to those listening, because we speak about, of course, I had a medical issue that I had to deal with, and I must say that I am here because I was able to address the matter early enough. And so quite often we hear people speaking about routine checkups, having routine checkups, and we tend to feel good and healthy and we put those aside. But it is definitely good when you can do that, because oftentimes I know many of us here, myself included, we always have a bush that is good for some symptom. But oftentimes, you would find out, as was my case, what you think is the symptom and what you may be trying to treat, that is really not the root cause of what you are seeing. So the routine checkups would help you to distinguish between addressing a symptom and actually addressing the root cause of the problem. And it's one thing to be able to have your checkups and say you're going to be, trying to get to the bottom of a situation. But here in Nevis, for example, we're very limited. A big part of any medical intervention has to be the diagnostics. And of course, the new wing at the Alexandra Hospital, that was supposed to be a diagnostic wing. And it is very disturbing when we would hear the Premier say, for example, that the hospital is functioning well, and one must ask the question, well, why did you start that project? But the diagnostics is very important, and I would like to impress upon the Premier, impress upon the Minister of Health, that the equipment that would be housed in that diagnostic wing can go a long way in saving lives. I can recall for the last campaign, there was much discussion about the universal health care, because once you have the diagnosis, then to get that medical intervention, sometimes it is not available here. And while we can see the Children's Medical Fund is having some impact and it's saving lives, there are a number of adults who, we must still have those fundraisers. We must still go out and try to raise the funds. And so the talk about universal health care is something that I think should really be at the fore, especially since our Prime Minister is the Minister of Health. I think, all things health should be at the forefront, and we should really try to address those matters as much as possible. We cannot, for example, depend on the communities and family members to raise the funds, because sometimes I'm aware that some persons, while they're actually waiting to raise funds, they run out of time. And so we really must revisit the universal health care coverage to try to ensure that everybody has an equal opportunity to access the type of services that they would want to acquire. And the last thing I would say regarding the healthcare and certain tips that I picked up really has to do with support. And I must say, during the time that I was away, I felt very much supported, whether it's by family, whether it is by some of our supporters who would reach out and give a word of encouragement. Sometimes I consider myself sometimes to be a loner, so to speak. I don't keep large crowds, etc. But sometimes when you're dealing with illness, it is good to have people giving you that encouraging word. So I would say, at some point in time, you would want to be able to have that support group. Even in the church, I had people, I'm someone, I attend different churches. My home church, of course, is the Beulah Seventh-day Adventist Church. But I would visit a lot of different churches, whether it's the pastor, I like a particular pastor, I like the way that they preach, or whether there's a program that is happening. But it was good to see that people from all across, felt comfortable to reach out and to express their well wishes, etc. And I do believe that contributed a large part in me being able to get back here so quickly. And as I would have mentioned in my announcement when I came back, on the road to recovery, the doctors are quite pleased with my progress, and so I just continue to grow from strength to strength. And so I said, I made these observations, and I said I think it would be good to share it with persons. Do not just feel that you could drink bush tea, and if you have a symptom, that would be the end of it. Sometimes the issue is underlying, and you really need to have that medical intervention. I'm hopeful that we would get the diagnostic wing up and running. I think, sometimes people don't understand the hardship even to go across the St. Kitts to get some, diagnosis sometimes. We see the same issue with the dialysis treatment. And, I do believe that our people having to factor that into their treatment protocol, it cannot be as comfortable for them. It's an added stress that I think they can do without. So, even if we feel that there are, just a few patients, when you look at the cost factor and what would be involved, considering where we have been, and considering that, funding had been made available. It's not that the Premier had to find the monies in his budget. Monies were made available by a grant, and he still refused to deal, to get the dialysis equipment. And so, maybe he feels that he would not need that service, or if he does need it, he can travel overseas. But we have to look after our people. We have to provide the services. And like I say, if it's one life that you save, then you should feel good that you're in a position to do that. So let us not take our health lightly. We may feel, good and full of energy today, and the next day you never know what your fate may be. But let me say once again, to the support that I have had, and to good God up above, who was close. I looked at the different stories about the young teenager who swam for 4 hours to get help for his family. And, it was inspiring when he said that he spoke to God along the way and asked for to give him strength and all the promises that he made to God. I know a lot of people do that. They make promises in a time of a challenge, and once they get out of that, they forget. But I must say that with God in the midst, it gives you an added sense of support. It gives you an added sense of faith that you will overcome. So there are a number of different factors, and I just wanted to share that little bit of information with those who are listening. Don't try to go it alone. And I must say, especially to my family, my 2 sisters, my brother, and my 2 sons, who were constantly reaching out to me. In fact, sometimes I said, I'm okay. You don't have to call me. You don't have to call me so often. But when they're not there, the mind will take them in different places. As I know people here were wondering, but there's still a certain level of privacy that you would want to maintain, but definitely once people know that you are not in the best of situation and they can give you some support, some encouraging words, that is very much welcome. And I do appreciate, like I said, all who would have taken the time to reach out in that regard. And I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, and we are very happy to have you here in the flesh. You've been very copious in thanking all and sundry. And I know you know this, but I have to say it because this is a program of record. Your members stood shoulder to shoulder with you. Dr. Patricia Bartlett proved a very able deputy. She said when she was last here, a deputy is essential. And she really held the fort very, very well, performed very ably. And every other member of your team, to a man, to a woman, really held their ground and made sure that everything stayed on track. Now, you spoke about the diagnostic wing at the hospital, and for the record, it is 8 years, 8 months, and 20 days today since it started on May 31st, 2017. And you said you're hopeful. Dr. Bartlett, when she was last here, kind of suggested that if we were at another level with our health care, you might have been able to be here. And I know on St. Kitts, a lot of people are getting a little bit of a jitters because we've been hearing from the Minister of Health and the Prime Minister that their smart hospital was supposed to start on many occasions, including before Christmas. But we're not getting a sense that we are getting the sort of movement that we want in the area of healthcare in the Federation.
Well, what I would say with regards to the smart hospital, which is, a stark contrast compared to what the Premier has been trying to do. I would imagine that a smart hospital would require a significant amount of preparatory work, planning, design, etc. Sometimes, I like to speak of overpromise and under-deliver because I deal with development, and so I have a pretty good understanding of what would go into certain types of development. And so I think the Prime Minister was very excited about the prospects of a smart hospital. I don't know all of the issues, but I do know a project of that magnitude would take some time. Compared to some of the other things that we have been seeing. But, one of the things that I usually speak to is the need to be focused and to know where you want to go. And I really do believe that, the Prime Minister, being a medical doctor, you would expect that his priority area would be the medical facility, and but there are a number of different projects that are being looked at, and if you only have 4 burners on your stove, you can't have 6 and 8 pots. Something is going to get left aside. So people ought to be able to know, well, what is your priority area? I often say at the end of the day, people are going to look at the leader and hold you responsible, give you praise and hold you responsible and accountable as well. And so in terms of whether or not the hospital and healthcare in the Federation has not been given the priority treatment that it ought to have received, is something that the Prime Minister would have to, maybe reconsider. It's getting a bit late in the game now, in the game. But I really lost confidence when there were discussions about the Prime Minister assisting with funding for geothermal and funding for the airport project. And when the question was asked about whether or not he would assist with getting the diagnostic wing up and going, and he pretty much dismissed it as a Nevis project. And so, you know, as a prime minister for the Federation for St. Kitts and Nevis, and as a medical doctor, someone in that profession, you would think that you would have an interest in the entire country really rising at a certain level. But we have seen where from time to time, you know, when we look at the land issue, it's rather dismissive, you know, don't mix him up in Nevis land matters, etc. So it's almost as if, you know, the Prime Minister is looking after St. Kitts, and I guess when he feels a need to, or when he gets, you know, he would assist. I still don't understand how he was convinced to provide 20 million for the airport project, because again we have not seen a feasibility study. Again, we don't know how the private investor arrangement is going to be played out, and I think most importantly, we do not know whether or not what is being proposed and what would be built, how it would be beneficial to the people of Nevis. And when you have all of those uncertainties or ambiguities, you know, it is quite likely that the airport can be built and the people of Nevis still would have to go to St. Kitts because of the cost of airfare. This government, they just never take the time to do the necessary planning studies, and it's simply because they're not really doing projects to serve the best interests of the people of Nevis. They're doing projects to satisfy themselves and their wealthy friends, and so how it would impact on the lives of the people of Nevis doesn't really factor into the equation, and you see it over and over again. And this is one of the reasons why we have to stand up and say the lives of the people of Nevis are not getting better. People cannot say that they have a better standard of living under this CCM-led government. They talk about the projects, but how are the projects impactful or beneficial to the people? That is an area where I think they have fallen short, and with the lack of transparency, you know, a lack of accountability, I don't see it getting any better, because it really does seem to me that the Premier is of the view that once you elect him, you give him carte blanche, the right to do whatever he wants to do with Nevis. And, you know, those of us who understand leadership and understand representation would know that when you're in a position of leadership, the political leadership, you know, the resources of the country are under your watch. You know, they're not yours to do as you feel like. And we have seen that with this Premier over and over again. And the unfortunate thing is that there is no one, it appears, in his cabinet to tell him, you know, let's not do this or let's not do that. If he says this is what he wants to do, everybody jumps on the bandwagon, and you know, they continue to take Nevis down a road of, you know, total disaster. And as much as we speak about the need for sustainability, I have not seen anything that this government has done that would lead to a sustainable Nevis, whether right now or, you know, midterm or long term. And, you know, is one thing I must say about this NRP and the, you know, what we want to do. We understand that, you know, no one person has all the answers, and I can come up with an idea and discuss it. Other persons can add to that idea, make it a much stronger idea, or even we get to the point where we say, no, that's not a good idea at all. You must have that level of understanding, and have that level of understanding that it takes more than one person to come up with the perfect answer. Now, I think my role in the party, I think I would have expressed it over and over again in terms of the direction in which we would want to take Nevis in the short, medium, and long term. And it just so happened that it aligns with the Sustainable Island State agenda. But I definitely would have priority areas, because you really cannot do everything. And I think the Sustainable Island State agenda has like 7 pillars. Yes, you have the different ministries that would take responsibilities, etc. But as we mentioned earlier, look at where the hospital is compared to all of the other things that are going on. And as we say, your health is your wealth, and that is something that really should have been given priority, and it really should have been much further along at this point in time, I think.
4 minutes to 9 o'clock, and we're going to make our way up to 10 o'clock this evening with the party leader, Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge. Today marked 13 years and 18 days since this government has been in office. January 22nd, 2013, a long, long stretch. It's 8 years going in 2 months since the Premier of Nevis, Mark Brantley, has been the Premier of Nevis. And almost an equivalent length of time has been consumed bungling the diagnostic wing. And it begs the question, how much longer? What else can happen for this government to make a turnaround? And so we're going to look at election matters for a bit. Sister Island of Barbados goes to the polls on Wednesday, the 11th. Mayor Motley, of course, for the second time has called an election before her 4th year. 3 years and change. Did it in 22 and has done it again. So they go to the polls. And the word coming out of Barbados, as has come out of all the Caribbean countries who have had elections in the last year or so, Jamaica, Trinidad, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, voter confidence and voter apathy is at an all-time low in the Caribbean. I want you to look at that for a moment, and also to look at what has been happening here in the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis. J.D. Keynes dealt beautifully with it last week. The supervisor of elections, Oakland Peets, came to us twice, of course telling us about the voters list, which was mounted at the end of January. And the other matter was about a breach in the electoral office. A lot of people feel that elections are won or lost in the electoral office and on the basis of the electoral lists. So I want you to look at those matters which are confronting us, especially at a time when people feel that St. Kitts Nevis is lining up to join those other Caribbean countries which have gone to the polls in the last year or so.
Well, there has always been a concern about voter turnout. People feel that, people have given up, have lost confidence, and no matter what they do, their vote really does not count. And that is something that we in the NRP have spent quite a bit of time, whether it's on the walkthroughs, one-on-ones, getting people to understand the importance of voting. Now, you really cannot blame people for feeling the way that they do, because when we look at what goes on here at our electoral office, it really doesn't give you much confidence. Now, it just so happened that today was the deadline to submit notice of objections and claim forms. But each year when you submit notice of objections, for example, and you see the list comes out, and the same names that you have objected to are still on the list. Whose responsibility is it? Now, we know that we have a number of deceased people on our list. In fact, some time ago when I was here, I spoke about our population being just above 13,000, and the voters list is just about 13,000 as well, just over 13,000. Now, some people would say, well, yes, we have voters in the diaspora who don't live here, so you can understand that the voters list would be a high number. But when you look at the amount of deceased persons who continue to be on the list, you must be concerned. Now, I can recall, again, during the last federal election campaign, there was a huge outcry regarding the marriage, the marriage ring, marriage for citizenship. Because, of course, once you get married to a national, you can apply for your citizenship the next day. And then once you get your citizenship, you go to the electoral office and you register to vote. Now, we understand that a number of those persons, it would have been illegal registration. And the last thing we heard from the Attorney General was that it is difficult to track these people to find out where they are to get them removed. So essentially, all of those persons who were registered, quote unquote, illegally, continue to occupy spaces on our list. And based on our system where you're supposed to serve someone that you're objecting to, first of all, outside of people who deal with the citizenship and the passport, etc., it would be very difficult to know who these persons are who got their citizenship through fake marriages. So they remain on the list. We have a different issue with regards to people and how they're being registered. Because so we have the fake marriages. We have the deceased persons who are also on the list, and then we have persons who are allowed to register to vote. For example, if you're from the Commonwealth and once you spend 12 months, you can register to vote. But sometimes when you check, you're not seeing that the necessary documentation supports that these people have been here for the required amount of time in order for them to register. So, you listen to people sometime and they say that, we have to do things at the electoral office and we have to get things done. And when you have been submitting the names over and over again, they would claim, because we've had meetings and we've had discussions, that especially if people are deceased abroad, it's difficult for them to get the information. I know that my party, we went to great lengths to go and find family members, get the date, get the location, whether they were in Brooklyn or Canada or wherever, get that information, submitted it to the electoral office, and still the names have not been removed. So it's a situation where, where do you go? We speak about electoral reform and the need to take certain action and make amendments to the National Assembly Elections Act. We never heard the Premier speak about amendments to the National Assembly Elections Act, except when he was trying to, to convince people that he can give citizens the right to vote and withdraw it from them by going to Parliament. So it is amazing the amount of issues in the electoral office that can be addressed by amendments. I know there are places where the list has gotten to be so corrupt, so to speak, that you set aside that list and you have people come in and they register again. I think 5 years between elections is more than enough time if you really had that desire to do it. But you would hear the Premier say it's not him, it's a federal matter. But we know the SSE is a federal matter, but he got it done, right? So these are the things that we have to look at. How does the voters list get to be so stacked, so padded? It's very difficult to find people to serve them a notice of objection because half of them, they're not here until when an election is called. And so when it comes to the electoral office, we've seen how much time has passed and nothing has been done by the federal government to fix a number of the wrongs that they complained about when they were in opposition. And so I think the onus has to be on the people who feel disenfranchised, feel that their vote don't count. And what I would say is, if you don't vote, then you're really giving them what they want. You have to tell yourself that you must vote. I think in the last election we had just over 7,000 voters, which was up from about 6,000 plus in the election of 2017. And so that is quite encouraging, and I think it has a lot to do with people recognizing that if we don't stand up and let our voices be heard on the ballot paper, then Nevis is not going to be, the Nevis as we once knew. And so, as much as it can be disheartening, we see how the government disrespects. Let us show them. Don't sit back and say you're not going to vote. Come out in your numbers and vote. Our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, they have a right to vote, but in a way they also are being disenfranchised because there are limits. The election is called within a certain short period of time. There are some financial implications. So even though we look at, talking about good governance and upholding democracy in St. Kitts and Nevis, when you dissect, you would realize that it's just lip service. And this is one area where I know the OAS, the observers from overseas, they have been coming here election after election, and they come and they make recommendations based on what they see to try to improve the process and to enhance voters' confidence. And I think it was as far back as 2010, if not before, the recommendation was made to count the ballots at the stations before you send them to a central location. And when you do that, it minimizes the opportunity to cheat. There are things that happen on the buses when they collect those boxes. And if the OAS is invited to observe and to make recommendations, and they have said, listen, to enhance your voter confidence, to let people feel, that this is really a fair process. This is something that we recognize that you can do. And up to now, we still have to wait until the next day to find out the results, because they refuse to count the ballots at the different stations before they take them to a central location. Now, why is that so? Why is it that you don't want to have a preliminary count? Because if you count at a VOJ primary school and you know that the vote there is 150 to 130, and you count at the Trinity Church, and you count at these different areas, and so you have an idea of what the preliminary counted. It is very difficult to then come and have one big number that is so different from those individual counts.
Let's take a pause there. Somebody wants to weigh in. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice with the NRP.
Good evening, Mr. Manos. Good evening, Honorable Dr. Hodge. I am happy, I am delighted to see your voice once again. Happy New Year. I believe wheresoever the vote has been cast, they should be counted there. For an example, at New River Methodist Church, if they have voting in that building, the votes should be counted in that building, and the returning officer put it to the whoever is counting, and you've called the supervisor call the figures, not select from a New River, Oga Gingerland, Box Hill, a Gingerland, Methodist Church, a Gingerland, Charlestown, a Gingerland. Wheresoever the vote has been cast, they should be counted there. After the counting done, the officers inside, they give the figures to whoever the supervisor. Because that supervisor of election gone, he's a criminal, and he victimized Nevis. He put back a government in power who should not be in power. When they win one seat, and the party that win 4 seats still in opposition. But leave them. One day, everybody will give an account for their stewardship. Who do big things, then get big. And who not do nothing, not going to get nothing. So leave them. It's only a matter of time. Good night.
Good night, caller. You want to react to that? Oh.
Yeah, because what we see is that we have, especially here in Nevis, we have a government that disregards, wherever the recommendations come from. It's a total disregard because it is not to their best interest. It is not to their best interest. Maybe I need to turn this down.
Yeah, a bit of a... All right, let's try that.
Yes. So the recommendations are being made, the recommendations are being ignored, and so it is just lip service that they are paying to these issues. And it is very...
Let's take this caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice.
Good evening, Mr. Manos.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, Madam President. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good evening.
You mentioned something earlier about, well, I think Steve mentioned something about the electoral office and the breaches. Madam President, we got to be careful about these things and breaches. Because hear me. What confidence can we have in a supervisor of election who knowingly counted and released figures to the public, and those figures had more ballots in the box than what vote casted? What confidence can we have in that same gentleman being the supervisor of election?
Mm-hmm.
Good night.
Good night. Mm-hmm.
And these are some of the things. When you have the overseas observers who observe the irregularities, because I realize that what we have here in Nevis and possibly in St. Kitts as well is where if the supervisor of elections says something, that is taken as if it's the law.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just their opinion of how something should be done. And this is where another recommendation made by the OAS, overseas observers, is training should be provided to the workers at the polling station so that they are aware of what is wrong and what is right. We are not seeing any notice of any training opportunities where persons can understand what is right and what is wrong. I was looking at the National Assembly's Election Act, and there was something that was bothering me, where they said the supervisor of elections, or whether it was the presiding officer, who said you can swear on the Bible, right? And that you are the person who you say you are, and then you're allowed to vote. Now, when you look at the legislation, it says you must have your voter's ID in order to vote. But if you indicate that it was lost or you do not have it, you need to either have your passport or government issued ID. Now, swearing that you are you, that could be an added touch. But there still needs to be some documentation to support not just you swear without any photo ID and you are allowed to vote. Now, these are things that we have to establish what is wrong and what is right, what is permissible on election day, so that you have agents sitting inside there. They should be able to point out and say, this is wrong, this is right. But if the training is not provided, which is something that we are going to have to insist upon, and I think this is an area where we can try to ensure that everybody's on the playing field to some extent. But, you know, to the caller that called in, I mean, we go back to the box in St. John's, where, you know, the concern was that you had more ballots in the box than the number of voters on the list. And, you know, how do you account for something like that? How do you get more ballots in the box than the number of voters who are on the list? It would mean that some persons were probably given 2 ballots or 3 or 4 ballots. Or how did those extra ballots get in the box?
Let's take this call. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice.
Mr.
We're
Manas,
getting
good
a
night.
bit of a feedback still. Yeah? Good night, good night.
Comrade Leader,
Cool ruler.
belated Christmas.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Happy New Year.
Thank you so much, and I wish you the same.
And welcome back.
Thank you.
Listen, the last thing you said just before the phone ring, that more ballot in the box. Then voters, how come somebody in the jail? Uh-huh.
It's a good question.
Somebody pull their foot because that's uncriminal offense, you know. You get that?
Mm-hmm.
That's a cheating, blatant. So somebody should really be behind the bars. And Mr. Manners, me think you'd address well, you address Memo, but me think you'd address the female, the newly female Japan winner.
Mm-hmm.
You hear me?
I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. You feel?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes. So and then comrade leaders say that they said that it's difficult to track the overseas if you go make an objection to somebody and they say, well, there's somebody the overseas. You know, me got one problem, you know. Me got one problem with the you know, the locals who home. All time I get the brunt of things. In other words, okay, Could me put in one little advice on one shot? Can I?
Yeah, man, we're regional brothers.
Okay. Maybe the rules then different really. But you see, up here we got numerators that go around. And the numerator, Mr. Manners and comrade leader, even if the numerator know you, you know. And they don't meet you home. If they meet you on the road, they're going to ask you what time they're going to meet you home. That means they know you, right? It could be a brother, it could be a sister, but they have to meet you home. If they meet you on the road, and they never meet you home, you know that you need to come off of the list, right? You get me?
We get you.
So
we
guess
get
what? So guess what? When the names come out and you've recognized, well, your name that you want to vote, and you know how to find the electoral office to go put back on the name there, you know, well, then it's no, that, you get me? Different to that, your name are going to be off. You get me?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, right, so telling me that it's hard to track, just take the name off of the list, and if the individual want to vote before something, you will find the electoral office to put back on the name. Alright?
Yep.
Okay then.
Before you go, caller,
Yeah, go ahead.
as we talk about the discrepancies and all of that we have in our electoral process, your friend the Premier of Nevis boasted after the last election that he could have given Dr. Patricia Bartlett 15 more, 16 more, and 16 more, and even 16 more. That sounds like a person who is directing the electoral process.
Well, okay, that's anyway how you see him, right? They how you see him in a panic. So he may have to say some little things to bring little something to the table. For things, because me listen to you afterwards. But you don't make go on with him Wednesday, right?
Yeah. If he's
Right.
here. Yeah, if he's here, yeah.
If he did, right. And the truth about it, when they may talk about carry the matter to the court, he may wonder, well, why the man carry the matter to the court? Because the court are going to say this and this are going to be the result and so forth and so. So then me have to ask Carlisle and Financial. Tell me something, the court in the Nevis, the result before the matter reach there?
Yep.
So you know worry about that. Me ask you on the last show, if I go be an election here, he say if God and then afterward, he say if one God first, and then afterward he say, what election you talk about that, and we still got about another 3 years to go work to do. You understand me?
Yep.
So you know worry about that. Then come back.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Good.
We've got another caller on the line. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Patty Leader. Welcome back.
Thank you so
Have
much.
you back with us.
Good evening.
God continues to put his hands on you, guide you and protect you and keep you well.
Thank you.
When we talk about the electoral office, let us start from the head. The now Prime Minister was demonstrating when he was in opposition.
I'm not hearing.
Wait. Yeah? You're not hearing? Is that any better?
Hello?
Hello?
Okay. You're still not hearing?
You hearing me?
Yes, I can hear now, yes.
Yes, I'm saying welcome back.
Thank you,
Listen,
yes.
the now Prime Minister was demonstrating about irregularities he claimed was happening in the electoral office. And it is really sad and disappointing for him to not even try to do something. I am aware of letters which was written to him about the irregularities in Nevis, and nothing has been done. And it is really sad because people who don't know they say, well, how come they keep voting for somebody and they say this and that about them and they're still winning the election? We on the ground know exactly what is happening. But what could we do? What could we do? Anyway, time longer than twine, you hear? And I'm still believing in God. And he does make a way where there seems to be none. And so our time will come. Let us talk about healthcare. And I'm going to talk about my own business. I am a senior citizen. And I went up to the hospital because I got high blood pressure and Mr. So loud and clear, you understand what I went up there for. Went up there because I have high blood pressure. I don't go and have it checked. And the nurses have been really good to me. And I went up there and I had it done and I had another problem. And the nurse said to me, do you wish to see the doctor? And I said yes, because I'm an outpatient. And I left and I went away. By the time I got back, there was a bill. And you know what? I wanted to see what's in it for the senior citizens because I thought you were giving preference. And so I went to the hospital and asked them, well, I got a bill and what it's for because I didn't think I would have been having to pay. Anyway, the person told me there's not such thing as a senior citizen when it comes to the hospital.
Raise your voice, please.
I said the person told me there is no such thing as a senior citizen when you come up to the hospital. If you're going to be billed, you are going to be billed and you have to pay the bill. Well, I don't pay mine yet. I still promise to pay it. But the senior have to take your time and reach up there to pay it. I am saying that I could manage it. I could manage it. It might take me some months before I could, but I could manage it. But there are people who are much less fortunate than me. And I'm wondering, if people matter more according to the Premier and the slogan for the last election, well, I wonder if the seniors are not people that you could put a little preference to them. And like I said, I will pay. And I will pay when I could afford it, which will be a couple of months from now. But there's some people who don't have that opportunity and privilege to be able to pay. I'm calling on the Minister of Health to recognize that it's not everybody is in your position to jump on a plane and go along. We, the poor ones, have to go up there. And we need a break. And I could manage mine. So nobody give me a break because I don't support the government and I say it loud and clear. But there are people there who are complaining because I just bang me mouth. And people, even people support the government 100%, is crying out. That wing up there has cost so much that if you had the wing done in time, maybe the seniors would have been cost less because, you know what? The hospital would have cost less to have it completed. And I'm hoping by the end of this year, that wing would be in place for us to enjoy. Good night and goodbye.
All right, good night.
Thank you.
Let's try and take this call. No, we lost it.
Yeah.
Please call back. There are several persons who have been trying to get in. We're getting this hiss on the line. I'm not sure why.
If I turn this down, let's see if I hear
Okay.
when they come.
Well, that caller dealt with health care, but several of the callers before. My technicians, I'm asking for your assistance here. We're getting this hiss on the line. We've got a caller back. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice.
Hello.
Hi, caller. Welcome to Your Voice.
Hi, good evening.
Lift your voice, please. A little low.
Good evening, Mr. Manners.
Hi, good evening.
And good evening to Honorable.
Good evening.
Mr. Daniel Hodge. How are you doing?
I'm well, thanks.
Okay, glad to have you back.
Thank you.
So, I am talking, I want to make reference to the electoral office. They both of the list. In November last year, I put up a post on Facebook regarding some irregularities in the St. James's area. And I said, I was going to wait until the new list comes out in January of this year. And so the new list came out, and I think it's dated the 14th. Yes, 14th of January. So I have in front of me right now both lists, 2025 and 2026, and this is just for Nevis 11 polling division number 7, right? This is just to draw a reference, because people need to understand that we keep hearing about, oh, we have people who have passed away and their names are still on the list, but I think we need to give people an idea of the time frame. No, these are public documents, so nobody could say I'm talking nobody business. These are public documents. We have on Nevis 11 polling division 7, for example, there is a gentleman who passed away. This year will be 11 years since he passed away. And everybody know that the gentleman was a staunch supporter of CCM. 11 years. And I know that the Nevis Reformation Party has made several attempts to object and have this gentleman's name removed from the voters list, and to no avail. It's still there after going on 11 years. There's a lady who used to reside in Butlers, and she passed away in 2024. I want you all to follow me carefully, you know. She passed away in 2024 on the 10th of August. Actually, 8th of November, sorry. October. And her name is Benilda Griffin. You know Ben Benilda Griffin?
We do.
Yes.
And if you had to say that she was a supporter of any political party, which party would you say she would support?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say.
No. Don't be afraid to say it, Honorable, because people need to understand the significance of this thing here. She was an NRP supporter.
A proud one too.
And she passed away in 2024. And in 2026, her name is off the list. You understand what I'm saying? And a gentleman who passed away almost 11 years ago, his name is still on the voters list, and that is just one. I haven't even gone into the other 12 that I've picked up in polling division 7. And we have to do something about this. Whether it is we have to go on Facebook every day, have a press conference, go down to St. Kitts, because this thing can't make sense. Why is it every single person who has been deceased and they are known NRP supporters, their names are being removed from the list, but persons who passed away and were staunch CCM supporters, their names are still on the list, still on the voters list. And this is just one polling station. I am not even. Let's look at Fountain, Beverson Cozier. Everybody know Bev was a big NRP. He passed away. His name is off the list. And there are persons in the Fountain area who supported CCM, who passed away, and they're still on the list. And this is the pattern. Dr. Janice Hodge, my esteemed party leader, I'm calling you, please. If you need me to even come and stand up in front of the electoral office with you, I will be there. Because this can't happen again. It cannot go down like this anymore. And this is a clear attempt to defraud the system, and we need to stand up, and stand up now. And I'm out.
Thank you very much. The big question, Dr. Hodge, who's going to guard the guards? You mentioned the Attorney General and fraudulent marriages. He came in with a lot of bluster, and you have suggested that that matter has been allowed to slide. Supervisor of election, as far as I'm concerned, is an occasional supervisor of election who sometimes comes out of a hole when he thinks there's a matter to be dealt with. Jamaica is probably the model for the Electoral Commission. What's happening with our Electoral Commission? Let's take this call first before you get to that. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator.
Hi, good evening.
And allow me to say good evening and welcome back to our party leader.
Thank you. Good evening.
That everything will go well with you going forward.
Thank you.
We're talking about the electoral office and the process. And there's something that troubles me greatly when it comes to the objections. Because I have served as an objector for St. Paul's for some time. And I know that there are persons who was living in Nevis, was registered, pack up the judge bundles will say, leave Nevis, gone back home to their country. And I object to those names, persons' names, and was told the names cannot be removed from the voters list unless the individual or individuals, because several, I think I objected to about the last time, 30 something. And I was told their name cannot be removed from the voters list unless they miss 2 consecutive elections. And I have made the point and proved the point that these persons no longer live in Nevis. They came in, they did not even have citizenship of Nevis. They were resident on the island. They have since left and gone back for years. And the name cannot be removed from the electoral list, I'm told. But you know what is staggering? That some of those same people find themselves back here on election day and vote. But they have no connection. Another issue I had with the last election, because I work as an agent also for St. Paul's. We started the elections, the election was going on, and then we were stopped in the process and told that no longer does a person has to show up with the voter's ID to vote. That the individual just has to come and put up their hand, not even swear on the Bible, just hold their hands up and say, I am Eugene Tuluweeks from Hamilton, and they must be allowed to vote, whether that is true, yes or not. If that is not corruption of the highest order, I don't know what else. Because the party leader is right. The regulation says that you must have 1 of 3 government-issued ID to vote in our elections. But look at it, Mr. Manners. There was an election in August, federal elections, and the regulation was everybody has to have an ID to vote. Come an election in December 22nd, very same year. And the regulation change or the policy change that you no longer have to have this ID. But what is even worse, that was not to the whole of Nevis, because I had conversation with someone who worked over in the St. James area at the polling station. And he said at that polling station where they work, didn't have a requirement. Everybody who voted there had to produce their ID. And so it was selective in certain parts of Nevis that people could have voted without ID. And part of Nevis, you must have had the ID to vote. There is something fundamentally wrong. And the last thing I'm going to say, I had conversation with one of the member of the commission that ran the election in Nevis. And the person said to me, with no water in their lips, the supervisor of election did not run this election. I ran the election. The supervisor only signed off on what I told him to sign. And I believe it. The idea of not voting with ID in Nevis did not come from the supervisor of election. It came from that particular individual. What is frightening and what is disturbing, that before the election, we wrote to the Attorney General and also to the Prime Minister about this thing, because we heard it through the grapevine that they were planning to do it. Up to today, we haven't had a response from the Attorney General. We haven't had gotten a response from the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister had one man protest himself. His party has protested about the corruption that was taking place in the electoral office. And because he's in office now, the Prime Minister has done absolutely nothing to correct the problems that we have in the electoral office. And what is worse, everything that we challenge when it comes to election irregularities on the island of Nevis, the court finds some way to rule against us. But somehow the CCM team would tell you exactly what will be the result of the court ruling even before the matter was heard. It says to me that not only that the electoral office is corrupt, but I want to believe that the court, the Caribbean court, is also complicit with what is taking place on the island of Nevis, in particular, when it comes to our elections. Thank you for listening to me, my brother.
Thank you very much. It's 18 minutes to 10. Thundering on the outside. I imagine rain is in the offing, so we're going to stop at 10. We're going to segue to SSC in a minute. But quick question. Is the Electoral Commission in St. Kitts and Nevis functional?
Well, the last time that I checked, our commission is comprised of 3 members. Mm-hmm. We had one member who passed away. That was a member from Nevis. And up to the last time that I checked, he was not replaced. I have not received any notice that we actually have the 3 members functioning. And so it is of course the 2 existing members can carry out the functions of the commission.
All right, let's take this caller very quickly. Caller, welcome to Your Voice.
Good evening, Steve.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
And party leader Janice Daniel Hodge.
Good evening, sir.
Don't care what they do. They're going to commit all kind of irregularities because it's happening in Basti as well. But people ain't studying that, and where are you trying to get over to the youngsters them? Go out and vote against both of them on the islands. But Miss Hodge, we in NRP and my party now, Timothy Party, we have to do the work. And it ain't easy because they're going to come with a lot of cheating. You hear what you're saying? It is a lot of dead people. You hear Tulu just now and the young man before talking about people died 11 years ago and still less. This is how these young thieves want to win an election and talk about the decent. It's not going to work. It's not going to work for them because the ladies, them all over them. All over them. And the young people, I mean, Nevis got to understand the direction where this vagabond boy taking Nevis. No, Miss Daniel. This man, me never hear your father go on the boat yet. Go talk no business when it come to Nevis business. He swear to walk down Charleston with his security. He a go camouflage through 4 Seasons and the luxurious yacht boat come and pick him up and carry him over. And the boat? That's gangster business. That's mafia business. We don't want that between these two islands as no leader. That young man has lost his way. There's no way. None of you all. None of the dream team could go and do them stupidness there. The government has offices. If any investor, so-called investor, want to meet any business store, as Kyla rightly said, Mr. Daniel used to always say, Mr. Perry, they have to come to the government office. And that's how it run. That's how the Great Butcher run things. That's how Simmons run things. This hanky-panky thing and taking criminals' money. I mean, it's so terrible, you hear? So terrible. And we got to clean up that. As native as think it's a Nevis. Miss Daniel, the ball is in your court. We got them all over. Do not let them get away. They cannot get away. Look at your team. Look at them 3 girls. Competent. When you hear any one of them speak, they sure they could give leadership. And we're going to get it done because we're going to fight like hell to get rid of Mark Bradley. He's a vagabond. Have a good night. Steve, you take care.
Thank you very
Good
much,
night.
Gus.
Thank you.
Okay, good point to segue. SSC and Destiny.
Well, SSC, I mean, that has been a major topic of discussion for several months now. And, you know, when we speak about SSC, the Premier would want to give the impression that the SSC, he's doing it for the people of Nevis and for the youths of Nevis. And what I find interesting is that he tries to compare the SSC to a number of different developments, right? And what people really ought to understand is that there is no other development in this country like the Destiny project. And I can say that confidently because the Destiny project is submitted under the SSC legislation. No other project, not Four Seasons, not Christopher Harbour, no other project in this country was submitted under the SSC legislation. That came into being in August of 2025. And so when the Premier tries to compare and say, oh, people didn't make noise about, the Four Seasons Hotel or these other projects, the reason why there is so much noise and so much concern is because of what the SSC legislation allows Destiny to do with regards to the amount of land that they can acquire, no minimum, no maximum, the fact that they can have their own laws in that area. And when that particular provision with regards to the laws, I had a conversation with some young people and they were talking about the prospects of getting jobs in that area. But when we don't know what Destiny is offering, when we don't know what laws they are going to adopt over there, our minimum wage, for example, on this side of Nevis, may not apply on that side. And if this is a development where they are trying to eliminate taxation, so to speak, to avoid paying taxes, then we must look at the employment procedures that they are likely to have. Would they be paying Social Security for the employees over there. And so when I say no to SSC and no to Destiny, you cannot have flawed legislation and expect to have a good project come out of it.
We'll take that call. Caller, you've got to be quick.
I'm going to be quick, Mr. Manners, very quick. When it comes to Destiny, what is so bad about Destiny is that the principal operator, Mr. Johnson, or Jansen, whatever his name, told us in no uncertain terms what is the two critical things for him for having Destiny. One, he says that he wants a place where rich people can come and raise their family in security. That's why he wants his own security. And secondly, he wants an area where there will be little or no taxation. That is absolute. No matter how much lands are involved, that is one story. This is the other story. The gentleman, the premier is talking about jobs, jobs, jobs. He didn't talk about jobs, jobs, jobs. The only jobs will be there when you ballot is a homeowners association, it is. And we cannot afford to allow Johnson, according to him, and he specified, because the premier lied to us, the premier says that they're going to be bringing about 7,000 or 10,000 people. Johnson says he's going to be bringing in 10,000 families. When you think of 10,000 families, you talk about a mother and a father and at least one child. That's 30,000 people. We cannot afford to allow that to happen. That is wrong. It is morally wrong. If the Prime Minister is saying bringing in 25,000 people in St. Kitts and Nevis is almost treasonous. How is it that we're going to bring 30,000 people on top of 13,500 people in Nevis? Then who's going to be in control? Who's going to be the dominant factor? They're the ones going to be in control, not we. We'll be the minority in Nevis. It cannot happen. It must not happen. And every individual must stand up and fight against this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got just 8 minutes to 10, so go ahead with...
Yeah. So the concern with the Destiny project is rooted in the legislation that supports it. And so when the Premier gives the impression that this development is no different than other developments, we know that he's absolutely wrong, because this is the first time that you have a project under that legislation, and because it has the provision for them to have their own laws, etc., which we do not know yet what those laws are going to be. And as the caller indicated, the large area that they are hoping to occupy and the large number of people that they are hoping to bring would change. We would no longer have Nevis. And the question that we must ask is, who is really supposed to benefit from the Destiny development? Who is really supposed to benefit? Because we have not seen where the people of Nevis would benefit. This is the first time you have such a major development and you have not done the necessary assessment reports to tell you what the impacts are likely to be and how you can mitigate against them. So again, you have this system-led government where they want to get into bed and have these projects, but have not done the necessary studies that would help to give people some understanding. And when you look at what has happened here, Mr. Manners, the Premier said he received a proposal. The people of Nevis have not seen that proposal. The Premier picks a bit here and a bit there that he wants to share, but we have not been able to read what the developers are proposing. The same thing, he had these town hall meetings about the project, drafted the development agreement, and didn't see it fit to come back and have a meeting, even if it had been a special address to the people of Nevis. These were the concerns that you had. This is what the development agreement looks like. We understand that it has to be approved by the Prime Minister. This may not be the final version, but just so that you know, this is what we decided upon. No such thing. So he has sent down a development agreement to the Prime Minister, and then is expecting the people of Nevis to embrace this development when we have not seen the proposal. We do not know what is in the development agreement. So from when the Premier is so trustworthy that we can believe that he has sent a proposal that's in the best interest of the people of Nevis. That is not the case, and as we've always said, with this lack of transparency, with all of this secrecy, why is there so much secrecy? Why is it so difficult to say what is in the agreement? I mean, what is this developer going to get that is so difficult for him to share with us? And so we are not happy with the way that this whole thing, came about. And, I'll go as far as to say, I don't think that the Prime Minister is pleased with the way that the Premier handled this first project under the SSE legislation, nor do I think the developers are happy with the way that he has handled it. And if you notice, the legislation gave the option to develop an oversight committee. Mm-hmm. Now, it's interesting that the ad hoc committee that was established in St. Kitts, initially it was to look at the legislation. Mm-hmm. Now I understand it is to look at the project as well. But at least it shows that the Prime Minister does not feel that he can make these decisions all by himself, and he's looking to a broader body that can give some recommendations. However, under the current legislation, the SSC legislation, what sense does it make to try to address destiny? And tomorrow somebody else comes and you have the same issues. We asked for the repeal of the SSC legislation because it is so egregious in so many ways. Mm-hmm. And I can recall when that legislation was passed on the 11th of August. The main thing that jumped out at me initially was the fact that Nevis has always had the constitutional authority to develop lands on Nevis without having to wait on the Prime Minister's approval. That is something that Nevis has had the benefit of. Hence we have our own development ordinance. So how interesting to hear the Premier speak about having to wait on the former Prime Minister for a letter for geothermal energy. And here he comes now and pass a new piece of legislation that now puts you in the same position that you now have to wait on the Prime Minister again. And then had the gall to want to chastise the folks in St. Kitts about how speedily they should act and the hypocrisy of the people of St. Kitts. I think the Premier, he is not au fait with what is necessary for development activities. He cannot complete the small projects that he has here, much less to try to navigate a major project such as that without the technical assistance that he should have. And we hear the Premier, he speak about scholarships and the young people of Nevis are not picking up the scholarships. And here you go and you negotiate scholarships again. What type of scholarships are these? We speak about building a sustainable state. We speak about advancing geothermal energy and renewable energy, etc. So what is so difficult in building an institution here on Nevis where our young people can train? As far as I see, The Premier has no problem with our students having to wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to get ready to go down to St. Kitts to get training in what is necessary now to build a sustainable state. And the things that we can do here, I mean, if it were left to the Premier, we probably would not have a Navy Sixth Form College here, because he would feel there's no problem with you going over to St. Kitts. And just as we look at all of the other areas where it is not a problem for him, as the leader and as the representative of the people, your first intention must be to try to make life better for people, especially struggling people. It ought not to be what you can deal with or what is in your best interest, but you must look out for the people. And so when we see even our nursing students, sometimes they go down for classes, and if the water is rough and they can't get over, they're penalized. And our students over here, they suffer so much more. And I mean, this is the 21st century. We have technology all over, but you're not seeing where Nevis is benefiting. You would see a little workshop here, a little program here, but it's not feeding into nation building. It's not feeding into the larger picture. And I would tell you, one of the areas that we have a serious concern with regards to the land has to do with the area of food security. When we speak of food security, we're not seeing where anything has been done by this government. We want to minimize our imports, the amount of money we spend importing food, when we can develop programs here and institutions, and people would say, well, NRP could talk, Let me just quickly point out to you how this government, this CCM government, really does not have the best interests of the people of Nevis at heart. They speak about food security. Food security is equal to national security, and they have all these things to say. But they can't finish the chicken processing plant. St. Kitts is now selling the birds to St. Martin.
and St. Martin.
Yes, all over, right? They can't finish the processing plant up to now. They talk about food security. When we look at our fisheries sector, and I must say, we look at Indian Castle that is being severely impacted by sargassum during the summer months. You come around to the Charlestown port, fishing port, and it was just this morning or yesterday morning you heard the notice of the dates when the fishers cannot use the pier in Charlestown. Now, the Premier is going to hire Alexis Jeffers as advisor for the airport project. How much would it take to fix a pier, to get a pier for the fishers so that they don't have to be disrupted? Because, you have rainy days when you can't go, you have rough seas when you can't go, and then when you can't go because of the cruise ships in port, then that is not motivating people to develop a livelihood from that. I mean, you come around to Jessup, so you still have the problem with the flooding on the road, where the fishers can't get down there. You come around to Cotton Ground. Only the other day they fixed the water problem. There's one fisher left down there because the government has not invested in the fisheries sector. You come around to Jones Bay, you see they have no place to put their boats because they have been displaced by the water taxi and the car park there. So pretty soon you're going to see the fishers at Jones Bay don't have a home. How do they, ply their trade? We come across to Newcastle. Initially, they said that the fishers would not have to relocate. Now, the last thing they said in the last budget address is that the fishers from Newcastle are going to have to relocate. So now you're going to go from a natural landing site that has been there for all of these years, to relocate them to a place which is not naturally conducive to fish landing. So, and when you look at long haul, well, long haul just never had the time of day. Nothing at all has been done to long haul. So when we speak about food security, and we see that they have not done anything with the fisheries. When you look at crop production, and you're now going to be putting all this land into housing development, not housing development for our people, housing development to invite people to come here. I mean, a small island such as Nevis, limited land area, the whole concept of sustainability is that you can provide your needs for today, but you also allow future generations to be able to satisfy their needs as well. And when we look at the type of development that is being promoted, it's the exact opposite of sustainability. There's nothing here that speaks to that. So we have a number of areas that we must look at. Our fisheries sector must have investment in that area, or else we're going to be importing food and fish products all the time. Now, people say, well, NRP could talk or whatever. On the NRP, we had a full grant for a fisheries complex. There's no reason why we need to be importing fish sticks and fish burgers and these things. We can develop that industry here. We can pay our fish the money that we're going to be paying to import these fish products, because there's something now called value added. It's not just the fish that you want to sell, but the different products that you can make, and that is where you really would start to see an increase in the economy for these people. And so, yes, we had the money already to do the fisheries complex, where we could have been well advanced, but on the NRP we see the need to invest for the development of our people. On the CCM, they say they need to invest for the development of themselves. And I hope people can see the difference between the approach that an NRP government has taken and would take compared to what the CCM government is doing. And one of the things that we have said, we cannot sit back and allow Nevis to be at the mercies of a CCM government for another 5 years. We cannot. And so as much as we talk about the issues with the electoral office, as much as we talk about all of the concerns that we have, it's at the point now where we are begging the people of Nevis, do not sit back, because I know that life is not easy for a large number of them. And if you really want a government that would look out for the best interest of the people, then it is time to give NRP the opportunity to come in and show what a government that cares about people and would want to improve the standard of living. That is what an NRP government would do. Don't be disheartened about the electoral office issues. We're trying our best to address those matters. The last local election, there were no overseas observers. We have to ensure that does not happen again, because at least the presence would, I think, limit some of the wrongdoing and that sort of thing. So here is where we are. Nevis is not going in the right direction. We really have to put a stop to what we're seeing happening now.
Wow, it's 9 minutes, 54 seconds after 10 o'clock, so we're going to leave it right there.
Wow, I didn't realize we went over.
Well, you're on a roll. You've been away for a while, and so you kept rolling, so I let you roll.
Oh, thank you.
But we can hear the thunder on the outside. We could hear the raindrops. Well, they're sounding more than drops beating on the rooftop, and we've got to get home. So just one, you had another notice?
Well, just quickly, I want to say on Friday, NRP would be at the Memorial Square celebrating Valentine's Day. We're inviting persons to come out. We want to do it under the theme of I Love Nevis. Nevis as in the Nevis that we know.
Okay.
And trying to help raise awareness so that people can understand the value of maintaining Nevis the way that it is, the Nevis that we know, owned by by us, so to speak. And we just can't sit back and allow it to.
That's not our destiny.
Is that the type of transformation that we would want to see on Nevis? So on Friday from about 10 o'clock, we would have some giveaways, etc. And we encourage persons to come by and, we participate in the spirit of the Love Month and Valentine's Day. So I think most of the caretakers will be there. Some of the caretakers do have to work. But do come by on Memorial Square from about 10 o'clock on Friday and participate in our Valentine's Day activity.
Yes, and another Valentine Day, well, not day, but Valentine activity, been informed by Carleen Lawrence of the St. George's Group. The cruise planned for Sunday the 15th, I think it is, has been postponed.
Yes,
and I'm sure that she will maybe join Carlisle and Tulu and Daly on Thursday to keep everyone abreast. Notice we didn't say cancelled, but postponed. And I think the weather forecast is for a lot of rain this week. Farmers love that, but for those of us who want to go boat riding, it's not possible this time around. Dr. Daniel Hodge, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you back. So good.
Feel like I had not missed a day.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure to be back as well, and I look forward. I don't even know when it's my turn again, but always look forward to being here and to having conversation with you and the rest of the listening audience.
Thank you. So that's our program for tonight, and so we're going to leave you this way.
Your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
You got it. You hit the right spot. The small station with the big sound. 2020 Vision Radio. 102.1 FM.